Sir Angus, I'm really delighted to have you on the show tonight. This is an extraordinary 100-year centenary here, or 100-year anniversary for the RAAF. You've had time at the very top of our military establishment, but you started out as an airman yourself and it almost didn't happen because of your height. Tell us what happened.
Well, that's right, Peter, and good afternoon to you. Essentially, I went to endeavour to join the Royal Air Force in the UK, and essentially I passed all the tests, but I was told that I was too tall, and after a cockpit check where that was confirmed, I was told that there was no way I could fly with the Royal Air Force. So I left disconsolate. I went to home and very shortly thereafter migrated to Australia. And I then went farming, share farming. The second year I was share farming. We had a very bad drought. I left the farm broke and joined the Royal Australian Air Force. Now, how did I get into the Royal Australian Air Force? Well, I guess I went in and asked what the height limit was, and they said 6'4", and I said, well, I'm about that. And I was measured. I didn't stand up completely straight, and I turned out to be 6'2.5" by the measurement they took that day. And the individual who did that said, I think you should apply to join. So I did, and I never looked back from that moment.
You flew helicopters in PNG in parts of Indonesia, and I know that you were heavily involved in the introduction of the Black Hawk chopper. Give us a sense, before we get into the other issues confronting the military, but give us a sense of what those experiences, being on the tools, if I can say that, being on the front line yourself, what they meant to you when you were later on in those very senior roles.
Well, I guess when I flew in Papua New Guinea and in Indonesia, very often you were out there very much on your own with a small crew, and you were confronted by challenges every day, challenges of operational limitations of the helicopters, and also weather and the remoteness of some of the terrain and the ruggedness of some of the terrain that we flew over or had to land in. So I learnt a lot from all of that. I particularly learnt how to stay alive in bad weather in places like Papua New Guinea, where a lot of pilots, young pilots, come to grief because they don't have the preparation and experience to handle the conditions. So I guess from that experience, I always put a very high priority on people. I always worked with small teams, sometimes much larger teams, and everybody in the team was valued, everybody in the team was trusted, and of course we always achieved the mission. So I sort of carried that broad attitude about the importance of people forward with me in everything I did subsequently. And it's interesting to note that in all the speeches around the 100th anniversary of the Air Force, our centenary, there's much emphasis, not so much on the equipment, but on the highly skilled, adaptive and flexible people that we have in the Royal Australian Air Force, and their ability to take the challenges of the future on.
Well, just on that, we often talk about Iraq and Afghanistan. We talk about the SAS and our Special Forces commandos as well, and their contribution. But I saw firsthand in and around the whole issue of Islamic State how important our Air Force was in terms of tackling that threat. I don't want to say we underestimate our Air Force, but I was just blown away by the capability and how well our servicemen and women and our capability is regarded around the world. That's part of, I guess, the challenge of keeping abreast of all the technology, isn't it? And as warfare develops, as technology, unmanned drones and things like that develop, it's making sure Australia really is at the leading edge of these developments.
Yes, and I would say what you saw against ISIS was the way an Air Force can have a decisive effect on events on the ground. And of course that's enhanced by the high technology of the weapons that are used. Precision guided munitions that can be dropped on a designated target, and they can deliver the desired effects on the target without affecting the surrounding infrastructure. So we've always endeavoured to conduct our operations in the modern era, since I was chief anyway, in a way that minimises that collateral damage to the to civilian people and civilian infrastructure. And in Iraq, and I suppose in 2003, and in Iraq more recently, that has been a feature of the way we've operated.
One of the challenges obviously is recruitment. I know it's an issue with our Submariner fleet, for example. Has that been a focus for the Air Force? Has it had the same challenges for recruitment as perhaps the other services have? Or do you see that the technology and I guess the excitement, if I can call it that, of the Air Force is something that's you know, not hard to entice people to want to join?
I guess you've got to understand I've been retired for quite a long time, but certainly in my time and before that, there were periods where we lost a lot of pilots to the airlines. Well, of course, right now, the aviation industry is in a lot of trouble through COVID-19 and the closed international borders and sometimes the closed state borders. And what it's meant is that we haven't had a problem with either recruitment or retention. I say we because I can't get out of the habit of talking about the Air Force in those terms. But I have been retired now for quite a long time.
How have you celebrated today?
Well, today I went out and joined the former Chiefs of Air Force and the current Chief of the Air Force for the Colours Parade. Essentially the old Queen's colour that was presented by the Queen in 1986 was retired, and a new colour was presented to the current Chief. That's a long-standing ceremony, very moving. And I must say, when I heard Highland Cathedral played with the Air Force Band, I had a little tear in my eye. It always moves me greatly.
Well, I think a lot of Australians share your pride. Sir Angus Houston, thank you for your service, but thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you very much for having me, Peter. It's lovely to talk to you again.